It's now 8:30. Are we online? All right, thank you. So welcome everybody to this 1st of May meeting of Te Puna Kōrero. I'd like to invite Councillor Hayward to open the meeting with karakia.
Kia ora koutou, welcome back. Right, toru, wha, whakatakatahau ki te uru, whakatahau ki te tonga, kia mā kina tuta, kia mā tātara ki tai. E hi ake ana, te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, tihei, mauri ora. Mihi to Dr. Taku Parai on his investiture.
Well, that leads us to apologies. The second item on the agenda, we don't have one, noting the leave of absence of Councillor Johnson, and also noting that Taku Parai and Councillor Nalo are online. So that item 3 is public forum, of which we don't have anyone today. And so conflicts of interest declarations. Are there any declarations of conflicts of interest that people would like to make? No, there being none. Let's move on to item 5, notifications of extraordinary business. And I'm advised there are no items of extraordinary business this morning. So item 6, the confirmation of the minutes of 13th of March, which was a little while ago, 2025. I'm going to move those minutes and I'll ask for a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Trillin. Are there any corrections to the minutes? No? In that case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. So that moves us to the substantive items on the agenda, first of which is item 7.1, which is the collective review of bylaws and policies and approval to consult. So we've got 6 bylaws here with minor changes and a revocation of one no longer required. I'm going to move the report to open it for discussion. Thank you, Mayor Baker, seconding. Councillors, I'm going to invite council officers to speak to the report required. Who's going to do that? Oh, you're both going to do it.
I just introduce.
You certainly you can. You can introduce.
Tēnā koutou rangatira mā. Just like to introduce Matt Walker, who's our Senior Policy Advisor, who came to us from the Office of Māori Crown Relations. So you wouldn't have encountered Matt before, so just introducing you to him and hand it over.
Thanks, Nick. Matt, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Morena koutou. So there are a few key points I'd like to make on the collective review. There's 4 bylaws and 2 policies part of the review. Only minor amendments are being proposed. We're proposing a minor process change to the transport bylaw, so that involves we're streamlining the consultation period for the bylaw. The community will still be provided 14 days for feedback on the bylaw. We're essentially proposing to roll over all of the other bylaws and policies because we think they're working as intended. This is just an efficient way to do the process. We're recommending that the local approved products policy, the psychoactive substances policy, is revoked as it's no longer needed. Other councils have done a review of this nature before, namely Taupō District Council, who reviewed 6 bylaws and 1 policy in 2021. Next steps, should council approve to consult, would be to open consultation on Tuesday next week. We're happy to answer any questions you've got.
So, councillors, do we have any questions? Yes, Councillor Hayward.
Ata Mārie, mātua upoko mihi, kai kanahita katoa. Matthew, Mia, thank you for coming in and presenting this item, and I understand the rationale behind what I would call an omnibus review of various bylaws. I have some specific questions regarding the proposed litter infringement policy. And I'd note that there may be an amendment, this is a line of questioning rather than an amendment, with regards to the litter policy. Can I, first though, can I just get clarity with regards to the change that's in the now where is it? Transport policy, and that mention of the removal of the section which codifies the process for consultation with the public. Where else does that streamlined process, as you describe, fall in terms of our existing bylaws with that provision being removed? Where does that go to? Because there's got to be a rule somewhere that says that you're going to streamline, you're going to put it somewhere.
Through the chair. Sorry, I'm not quite clear on what the question is.
Happy to clarify. So, Section 7 of the bylaw with regards to transport is regards to the public consultation, has a 14-day period and so forth, right? We're aware of that language. That's been suggested that be entirely removed. There have been commitments made in paper and being mentioned in this meeting that there will still be a requirement for the public to be consulted. Where is that requirement? Because words and they are mentioned is not good enough, I think, in terms of a process. Where's the documentation that says that's our process, that's what we're going to follow through with?
Through the chair. So we received legal advice that we didn't need a clause similar to clause 7, that explanatory note in the bylaw sufficed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, as I understand it, that will go into the preamble of the bylaw in terms of clarity around the consultation process.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And there's no other reference to any other bylaw or policy or process that we have that would be utilised in this instance, or any other instance for that matter.
Through the chair, not that I'm aware.
Okay.
No.
There may be fertile ground for
So
follow-up.
you're happy with that, Councillor?
I'm happy with that. So I'll go on to the, so now I'm going to
So-
go on to the fees with regards to the litter infringement policy changes. You're proposing no changes. Just to clarify, central government legislation requires us to not put in place a fine higher than $400 for any infringement. Is that correct?
That's correct. Through the chair, that's correct.
And can officers provide any commentary on the incidence of fly tipping or other infringements that this policy is designed to stop? Has it declined over time? Has it increased over time? Or is it exactly the same in terms of the number of infringements?
Through the chair, we'll have to come back to you on those exact numbers, sorry.
Okay. Understanding, of course, the presumption that there's been no reason to change it in the view of officers because of what has been mentioned earlier in this item.
Through the chair, correct. That's because we believe the policy is working as intended. Yes.
Okay. I'll come back with regards to my amendment in due course. I don't want to hold up anybody else from asking questions. So,
Well, I suspect. Are there any other questions? Yes, Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, the first thing I want to say is fantastic effort. I mean, that's a lot of stuff you've gone through there, and it makes good sense to me, everything I've read in there. Just one point of clarification on reserves bylaws. When we talk about a description of aircraft, does that include drones in public areas?
Through the chair, that's a great question. I believe that it does, but I'll have to come back through the team and give you an answer, if that's okay.
Thanks, that's all for me.
I suspect that it probably does these days. Yeah. So, Councillor, any other questions from councillors or the Mayor? So, Councillor Hayward.
I'd like to, Mr. Chair, I'd like to propose an amendment for what we would go out to the public for consultation on, with regards to an amendment that would require a change to the proposed table of infringements for offences that are covered in point 2 of the litter infringement policy. So for clarity, that's on page 73 of Diligent to my colleagues. Currently, there are 4 categories which are based on the volume of the litter that has been charged in regards to. The cap is 400, and for the highest level of volume, that is still $400. And I don't see any reason to change the measure below at $100. I propose that we change the section 1 to 20 litres from 200 to 300, and 20 to 120, I believe is the word, yes, 20 to 120 litres to $350. I'm happy to go into clarity afterwards once we have a second for the motion.
So can I just ask, what's the purpose of this Councillor Hayward?
So my view is, having read this and gone back to check the legislation, it's been several decades since the $400 cap has been amended by central government. We have no power to change what central government says on this issue. And I respectfully disagree with officers with regards to the infringements that are still happening with regards to fly tipping. We are limited in our capacity to do anything in terms of deterring that from a punitive side, other than to adjust the fees to reflect that. Now, after 2 decades of no shifting in the cap of $400, the very least we could do is look to raise those levels for a higher overall degree of penalty for breaching the bylaw.
I see where you're coming from. I mean, my personal opinion about that is that it would have no effect whatsoever. People, you can find people what they like, whether they're going to pay or not. You just
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Just so I'm clear here about debate, you haven't had a seconder yet.
no, that's right.
So I appreciate you as chair
Still wanna
allowed to
go
have
with
your right to speak
Fine.
on that matter, as would anybody else.
Yep.
But let's make sure we get a seconder before we go
No
forward.
problem.
Happy to second.
All right. So we have a second, and now we can.
So obviously, I will wait to the end to take as final right of reply. But I just wanted to point out that we just do the process correctly.
Councillor Trillin.
Thank you. Actually, a question for you, Jeff, just around the proposed numbers you've talked about there. So just to clarify, that was what is currently 200 would become 300. What is currently 300 would become 350. Just wondering if there's any particular rationale around moving it up to 350 and not just right up to that cap of 400 if we're increasing it anyway. What your thinking is there?
If I'm happy to respond to that.
Go for it.
I think that there is still a need for a graduated scale of penalties, hence the reason why the lowest level is still there. So proportionality still has a role to play here in terms of those infringements. But I think in terms of sending the signal that we are trying to, within the rules that we have available to us, that we are setting a higher level of penalty with regards to proportionality, I think that is perhaps a point that I think we should go to the public to seek their consultation on.
Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, sorry, I was just
Councillor
going to...
Trillin, do you want to...
Yes, sorry, I was just going to say that makes sense, and I think based on that argument, I would be happy to support that for the purpose of going out for consultation. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, you can... Let's talk process then. Yeah.
Through you, Chair. We're just discussing a process component of this where we're not actually sure if we can change it and what it may affect in terms of the fees and policies that we've got in place. So we're proposing that we take this component out of the collective. We come back to you, we consider the point that Councillor Hayward has made, look at what we can do in the numbers and bring that part of the policy back. We just don't want to commit to something right here and now that we're not sure if we can change and what it might affect. Put that on the table.
Point of clarification. If officers have officers considered the possibility that this going out to consultation still reserves the right of officers to bring back to the council when it comes to the substantive debate that considered feedback and allow, again, the possibility of public feedback at this opportunity, if there be any, and then it may be that there isn't strong public view. I would like to think that there was contrary to that, while still giving you time to actually work on the implications of the implementation of a revised change to the bylaw.
Through the chair, I think with this particular policy, we've worked with the team and they did not suggest any changes to the fees and that they were working okay. That's not to say that this isn't a valid thing to consult on. However, I would be apprehensive to recommend something as part of this review if we haven't fully gone back, spoken to the team and understood the full implications. So I think 2 options. We could go out as is and see if the public talk to us about these fees as an issue, or the second option is to remove it from this collective review, bring it back to you in it wouldn't take a lot of time, but just so we can be more thorough in what we're recommending. I know that's a cautious approach, but since the team hasn't suggested these changes and we haven't looked into it thoroughly, given this was a minor review, yeah, that's just my thoughts.
You want to respond to that?
I think that in terms of in order to allow us to have timely and efficient business around this meeting, I'm willing to prepare to change the amendment with approval of the seconder to have that recommendation to be changed so as to pull that portion, that policy out of the omnibus review, and then that will come back at a later date.
So you're changing the amendment to remove this particular policy from the omnibus review?
Yes,
And to come back at a later date.
in accordance with advice from officers.
Is that,
Angela? I think that's a procedural motion at that point, to remove that.
Just a procedural.
Jeff can't move it.
so it's not an amendment, it's a procedural motion? Hold on.
So if I've understood correctly that this would be considered a procedural rather than a substantive change to the motion, then I'm going to just leave this in here and we'll see where the votes lie on it, and then we'll go to consultation. I'm still not necessarily convinced of the argument, but I am also just very mindful that our job is to receive information from officers. There is still plenty of time in the proposed consultative period for officers to provide that information, and we can change to make recommendations to change back or to not make any changes based on that proposal. There is no skin lost in this whole process.
I note that. Councillor Trillan, did you have a...
Yeah, it was just a clarification question around the proposal that we leave it as is, see what happens in consultation, and then make that change. Hypothetically, playing that out, let's say we left it as it was, go out to consult, and then we didn't receive any feedback at all. Would we then be able to make that change in the absence of feedback if we haven't consulted on it? Just because I know there's
No,
been...
not really.
Yeah, so that's
so-
my concern.
good
Which is
point.
why we're kind of saying, you know, it might be better to go and do the work. But we're in your hands if you want to, if it's an issue that you think is going to change behaviour and that you want to put it in here, well, put it in and see what people say.
So, Mayor Baker and then Councillor Philo.
So are you asking it to come out of the consultation, which means we're not putting them all out at once, and you want a separate consultation over a few $100s? Because
No, I was initially persuaded by officers, Your Worship, because of the idea of pulling it out separately. Now I'm of the opinion that we should just go straight to the public. It is a consultation document. It is not a substantive change, and there are several perfectly good weeks of time for officers to be able to prepare material, as they would have if we didn't put this proposal forward, because they need to prepare documents for the substantive debate.
and they would have done that for you if you'd put it in early, but thank you, I appreciate that.
So, you're happy to leave it as it is?
Happy to leave my amendment as is. So I want the amendment to go in as is. That means
So-
the changes, not to have the policy
The
as
amendment is to change the
Yes.
amounts.
for the consultation process.
Consultation process.
And I'm doubling down on that position because of what the CE had mentioned before, that if we do not put in a consultation document, a proposed change, and it comes back that the public do believe that there is a need for change, the advice from officers would be, you can't change it now. It's after the fact. So yeah, I'm going to want to put that proposed amendment in for consultation. That's what we're talking about here. Consultation, man.
Hold on. Councillor Philo first.
Cool. Just a point of clarification. How long do you think? How much time do you think you need to confirm what Councillor Hayward is proposing? Because we're looking at Tuesday, right? Next Tuesday to go out for consultation. So, how long do you think this will take you to sort of get that information?
Through the chair, in terms of making sure that the fees proposed have a good basis for proposing them, probably a day or so. But that being said, we also have other priorities that we're working through. So we would, if elected members would like to go ahead and add a fee, then we would be able to go through and check the basis of what is proposed. Looking at this, we also do have delegation to the chief executive to make minor changes to the statement of proposal. So we could, but what we might land on, I'm not sure. We'd have to send advice back through to all elected members.
Would that have to be done through the meeting process, or could it be done via email?
I would not think a fee change would fall into my delegation. The problem we have is it might take a short amount of time to do the work, but we have a lead time into our meetings, which means that we don't have a meeting between now and Tuesday. And we the next available meeting is probably 2 weeks away to get it back. So it would probably take 2 weeks to get it back to a meeting to consider. So that's that's the machine we're in, really.
What would be the implications of waiting 2 weeks, pushing out the consultation for 2 weeks? What would that?
You're meaning the consultation about everything?
Yeah, like if it just gets...
we're
letting this
getting
lie.
we're getting a little bit close to the pre-election period, so that's the problem. Is we'll have a big lump of work right on the cusp of an election, and we do try and avoid doing that because they are somewhat meaningful. So that's what we're working on at the moment. So these are all admin things, but honestly, if there is a will to do this in the meeting, I would just go with Councillor Hayward's amendment. But you haven't even debated the substantive issue yet, so I don't know how the room feels about that. So,
Councillor Duncan, you have a...
Yeah, I think we're missing the whole point of why people fly tip in the first place. And I take your point there, Ross, where you're saying they're not going to pay the fine. They can't afford to pay for the stuff to go to the tip in the first place, and that's why they're dumping it on the side of the road. So imposing a $50 extra fine isn't going to make one blind bit of bloody difference, quite frankly.
Does anyone else want to make comments about the substantive? Councillor Weehappy.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing this to the table. Personally, I think fly tipping has actually been, it is quite a big issue, particularly in certain parts of the city. And you may think it might not make a difference, but it sets, it's perception that we actually do care that when someone dumps their waste, it's not always because they can't afford it. And I can tell you what, there have been people that have come outside of the area that have had their photos taken with their big flash SUVs that have dumped their crap at Bothamley Park. Okay, it's not just people that can't afford it. These are lazy, entitled people. And so, like the fact that the cap hasn't changed in 20 years, I don't see any issues with us particularly putting these up. Whether they're going to pay it or not, no idea, but it is perception and something needs to change. So I'm going to support your amendment, Jeff.
Any, Mayor Baker?
Sorry. I agree with both of you, Mike and Kylie. It is a problem. People just put it by a council bin instead of down the bank, but there are people dumping all around our harbour. I do agree the prices are wrong. $400 isn't enough, but that's central government. Why can we not put both prices out so that people know what's going, so we don't have to come back again? Why can't we just say we're looking at increasing rather than we are? Can we not just put it out as...
Have to have a proposal. Yeah, you have to have a proposal about what your fee will be, but you can certainly put some words in there to say what do people think about prices and will it make a difference to behaviour, and we have a upper limit that we can charge set by statute, and which seems to me potentially more the issue.
So can we just change the wording so that then Jeff gets the amendment across the line? It seems that most people agree with the prices. If we could go higher, we obviously would. And then we don't have to wait for the consultation. Can we just not put this is what is in the thing? We'd quite like to do this. What do you think? And that way we're covering our butts both ways.
Isn't that your amendment?
No, if I've understood the Mayor's position is that we go straight to making the amendment now, which I don't think we could under our existing policies around consultation. We do need to go out to the public for consultation as any
No, I'm
deliberative body.
still saying go out to consultation. I'm just saying this is what it is. We're thinking about this. So I'm still doing the same thing as you. I'm just trying to get it over the line so we can move on.
I understand. And I'm not here to argue the semantics over the wording, but suffice to say that my intention remains the same, that the prices should be taken up for consultation with the public around a increase on 2 bars of 4 categories, 2 parts of categories. I'll leave it there because I want to have a right to reply at some point, so I don't want to get there.
Can I ask officers how many, or if we know, how many infringements have we in this area? Have
Point
we
of order,
imposed
Mr.
on
Speaker.
people?
I asked that question some time ago in this very meeting.
Are they going to come back?
Yes, they said that.
Okay. You'll never know. Councillor Trillin.
Yeah, sorry, just as a quick clarification on the point that Mayor Baker was making, am I right in understanding that's essentially an explanatory note that, provided the substantive element that Councillor Hayward is proposing isn't changed, would probably fall within the Chief Executive's delegation to provide that explanatory information? We wouldn't need to change the amendment itself?
As I understand it, you would like to, as long as I understand Councillor Hayward's intention, I'm happy to do it under delegation. I just have to be 100% clear that I understand what that is. But yeah, but as I understand it, it is you want to propose an increase in fees to those elements and that you've pointed out. Have we got this written down somewhere? It'd be quite helpful to have some of it in writing. Yeah, so I'm happy to deal with that as long as the amendment gets through and we, that's fine. We can change the words. I just don't want to change the policy itself or their fees.
Have you got Jeff's amendment? For the sake of clarity,
Let's go back and make sure we're clear.
can we go
about
back,
this.
please?
So my amendment would be to change the discussion, the document and proposed bylaw and discussion document.
Just go slow.
Yep.
So we can. So again, have you got some specific wording?
So that the section noted as point 2 in the existing proposed bylaw change would be that the category. No, I just need to pull up that page. So I've got it right here in front of me. That's my policy. So for the section that has depositing limit, actually, we're just wanting to go there, that the reference to 200 in table 2.0 be changed to, was it 300? And and the reference to $300 be changed to $350. It's probably the tidiest way we can do this amendment.
Hold on. Let Angela catch up.
Is it an explanatory note?
So,
Or is it
what have you? No, that's a substantive change. Yep.
So, proposed prices in the discussion document at point, the existing change would be that the category.
In the existing proposed bylaw change, yeah.
Sorry, proposed prices in the discussion document at point 2 in the existing litter infringement policy 2019 change would be that the category 2.0 table changed from 200 to 300 and the reference to 300 be changed to 350.
I believe that gets the sentiment of what I am trying to address in the
I don't think
motion.
that's the existing policy, is
No,
it? It's the statement of proposal.
The only reason why I
should
used
be.
existing was just because it is what is on notice
Existing,
draft.
yeah.
Yeah.
Change, yeah.
So let's read this out again just to make sure that, I know we've got the intent, but just so
that the proposed prices in the discussion document at point 2 in the statement of proposal change at 2.0 table $200 to change to $300 and the reference to $300 be changed to $350.
Is it? Yeah. 300 to 350, is it? Yeah. Okay. So I think we're clear about that now. Anyone else want to make any comments? Or yep. Councillor Waddle, seeing as you haven't spoken before. Then you, Councillor Ford.
Don't want to make this go on any longer than it needs to, but why don't we just go with a flat $400 fee? Our city is not a trash can. Either way, I'm happy with Jeff's amendment, but just a thought, a flat $400 fee. It's peanuts, but it's.
I'm happy to. So my apologies. I'm happy to address that in my right of reply.
Okay. Councillor Ford.
So, I think that the biggest issue for me, I seconded Jeff's amendment, but our inability to raise that $400 to anything, is there any way that we can go to government, obviously, and ask them to raise? Because if it hasn't changed in 20 years, seems to me, and I know it's outside of what we're discussing here, but as a side, there's got to be some way that we can move those goalposts so that we're sending a serious message that we're not a rubbish tip here. But also on the Deputy Mayor's comments around we've got a lot of lazy people out there. It's not just because they can't afford it. Sure, there are a couple people who can't, but there are a whole lot more people who are just lazy in our city, who don't have any respect for the area that they live in. So, yeah, that was all I had to say.
Thank you, Councillor Ford. Anyone else? I'll make a comment now, Jeff. I mean, I understand the intent of all this. And yes, we do have people around that litter and all the rest of it. I just don't see any evidence that increasing the fees will make any difference whatsoever to how people litter. It's basically the same as, and this is a bit extreme, that the death penalty discourages murder, because it doesn't, obviously. And the fact that we put up fees... No, I wasn't. I said it was a... However, the point is that putting up fines, there's very little evidence that it makes any difference to what people do, to people's behaviour. That's my point of view.
At the risk of prolonging... Can I just make the point, and Mike may have some commentary on it because his team are the ones who end up enforcing this. It is not something, we do enforce it, but to enforce it, you need an evidential basis. We often derive that from digging through rubbish. We don't do that on a regular basis, is my understanding, because actually we don't have enough time to... So enforcement is a tool in our toolbox, but the reason we possibly don't have the figures is because of how many infringements have been laid, is because the answer is not many, I'm told, but I don't know the exact number. So I agree with all the sentiments, and our advice is based on the fact that we don't want the city to be a rubbish dump, but you have to consider, if you're expecting this is going to up our enforcement, it possibly won't, because it won't net that much more money for us to enable us to put an extra person on, for example, to do this work. So it is a deterrent factor, but so I just want to be crystal clear on that issue, so that everyone subscribes to the no fly tipping. Well, actually, some people clearly don't, but so I just wanted to be clear about our enforcement abilities in this area.
Thank you, Wendy. So comes now to you, Jeff, for your final.
Okay.
without prolonging it too much.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, everybody, for participating in this yes, participating in this process and being so patient. Well done. It also is a test of patience for me as well, so I appreciate you all demonstrating it for me as well. Thank you. 3 points that I want to cover from the comments that have been made around the table before we go to the vote. First of all, I think that there is an issue with regards to cost recovery that these fees serve to also assist the council in their operations. Noting the Chief Executive's point of view that enforcement of it is challenging and that there is limited resources to carry that out, it would then be axiomatic to think that an increase of the penalties, as we have done for other areas like animal control, where we have taken an approach which has allowed us to have a measure of cost recovery, an increase in fees and of penalties would also enable additional resources through that cost as a means of cost recovery. That said, I do note the Chief Executive's comments. Secondly, as has been said by at least 2 members of the council, if their perception is that there is no likelihood of this serving as a deterrent, then I hope that they will, in due course, when we get to the substantive, propose the amendment that the fees be charged at 0. Because then that would mean that your position on the fees and charge would match your sentiments on this. I've decided that that's not my sentiments on the approach, and I have brought those forward as an amendment. Now, finally, as to the issue raised by my colleague here with regards to making a cap across the line, I mentioned before that there should be a degree of proportionality. All laws should have a degree of proportionality. It's exactly the argument, ham-fisted analogy, though it may have appeared to some, it is still important to have proportionality with regards to infringements. So we shouldn't be necessarily thinking that $400, though it would be easy to implement in terms of writing up this document, is necessarily the best signal in terms of creating improved behaviour. Because if the argument is that, yes, if you're going to be held up for a murder beef, you might as well kill as many people as you want, because the penalty is still the same, to use your analogy, then there is no disincentive for an individual to see why their infringement is bad for Porirua City, as it relates to the degree of harm that it is creating as well. I am heartened by the comments by members around the council table around their equal distress with regards to fly tipping. I am also of the view that this council can choose to, at any point, and maybe it may choose to do so at the substantive, to put up additional language that requires us to engage with central government around a change to the $400 cap. But until then, let's just go to the public with this and deal with it there. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Right, let's put the amendment. And then we'll go to the substantive. All right, so the amendment is, and I'll read it, the proposed prices in the discussion document at point 2 in the statement of proposal, table 2, in regards to categories, change the reference of $200 to $300, and the reference of $300 to $350. Does that satisfy your amendment, Councillor? Very good. I will therefore now put the amendment. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. Sorry. And an abstention from Councillor Duncan. And myself. Now we'll go to the substantive.
Just to confirm that motion has passed?
Yes, it's passed.
Okay.
I said it's passed. Yes. Passed. Now let's go to the substantive motion, which is the collective review, and that we adopt a statement of proposal, recommend that we revoke the local approved products policy and go to formal consultation starting on the 6th of May, and delegate any minor changes to the Chief Executive. I'm now going to put the substantive. Any discussion? No? All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Yeah. Let's go to item 7.2, shall we? I'm going to move, this is Lyttelton Avenue car park. Councillor Ford, I'll let you second it before Councillor Hayward. Right, so I'm going to invite Julia to come forward and talk to us about this. You can see clearly. No, the rain's still coming. All right, Julia, do you want to just give us a little brief background on this? And
thank you. This paper is for an approval to consult on the disposal of the Lyttelton Ave car park, which is down by Station Road exit behind the mobile petrol station. So the options that we're looking at for the consultation is to sell the site or to retain with 3 options for the retaining of the site: lease, paid parking, or the status quo. As I've mentioned in the report, currently there's no financial return on that site and the asset condition of the pavement is deteriorating. We're proposing a 3-week consultation process, which would start on the 13th of May and would close on the 3rd of June. And we're looking at a sign on the site, a letter drop, and letters to directly affected parties and other parties, interested parties in that site.
thank you. Questions, councillors? Councillor Duncan.
Thanks for this. This has been going for quite a while, hasn't it? That bit of land there. On page 118, at the introduction, item 14 estimates a full resurface curb and channel would cost around $350,000. Yet fixing potholes and a complete resurface would only cost half that. How on earth do they come up with that? Do the curb and channel cost so much money that it would double the cost?
Yeah, these were just rough estimates that the maintenance manager provided, and I understand the difference was around that curb and channel and the extent of the dig out of the surface, and then the base cost that would be put in. So yes, there is an option to reduce that cost. These haven't been costed; they are just rough estimates. So we'd have to go out to market for those costs.
One further question.
Certainly.
The sticking point for me with all of this is that Greater Wellington will always need to be able to get down into there to do their stream clearing, yeah? So that benefits us in the long term while they're able to do that for the CBD, keeping it clear. And Greater Wellington obviously don't have the money to buy the land office at the moment, it seems. Is there any way we can do a land swap?
I'm not aware of any land that we could do a swap with them with, or that they're interested in. I could certainly ask them that question in their letter, because we will be sending a letter directly to Greater Wellington as part of this consultation, and try and see what other options there are.
Councillor Philo.
Hey, thanks. I just want to clarify the current zoning. In the report, it says it was residential in the 50s. What is it now?
That was when the piece of land was held by the Crown for residential purposes. That isn't anything to do with the zoning of the land under the district plan. I think it's mixed zone under the district plan, but I would have to go back and check that. I haven't checked that.
We have planner in the room, but I'm pretty sure it's also a mixed use zone.
Okay, that's good. So, is that part of the proposed district plan, or was that the operative, or the one before in 1999?
So the mixed zone is part of the proposed district plan.
Okay.
I don't think it's ever had it wasn't a residential zoning under the operative district plan, I don't think.
It was mixed zone under the operative.
It might have been in industrial. You think? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, through the chair, we can check what the previous zoning was. It wasn't residential. It would have been anything around closer to industrial, but at the moment it's been mixed use, and that's the proposed district plan, which is the one that we'd be working to.
Okay.
Yeah,
But, and
we can come back to you with that, Kathleen, what it was.
Yeah, and just if there's been any appeals around it, like if it's operative or not. I was also curious around that easement and that triangular piece of land too. Is there any sort of background you can provide around?
So the triangle piece of land that we settled on last year, so we sold that site. So that portion of the site was declared surplus back in 2016. There was a long-standing encroachment on that parcel, and we sold that portion through a subdivision process to the adjoining owner.
Right, is that the business that is referred to in the report?
We sold it to the landowner at the rear of the site.
Right, okay.
So that satisfies your questions, Councillor Trillin.
Thank you very much.
Taku. Yeah.
Just a clarification around if we were to progress to the preferred option, being potential sale of the site. Let's play that out. Say that we do that, consult on it, people agree to it, and we decide that we want to sell it. What does the process look like from there? And the reason I ask this question is I'm in principle open to selling the site if we thought it was going to go towards a really good use of that land. I would be really disappointed for us to sell it just for it to go from being a council car park to a private car park. So would the specific sale be something that would come back to council or committee for authorisation, or would we just be saying we'll sell it to whatever the highest bidder is regardless of the criteria?
We'd likely put it on the open market and just take the best price. So we have, this has got quite a long background, this piece of land. So for those of you who have been around for some time, you'll recall that we had some residential proposal down there that took some time, and basically the developer wanted the land sort of free, really, which we weren't prepared to do. So we have had a go at getting residential on that site. And there's, it's now reasonably compromised because Greater Wellington requires an easement to access across their land. So it's, it is somewhat compromised. But we have had some interest lately from a couple of different parties, which is why we've brought it back, because we know there's an interest around this table in reducing some of our liabilities. So,
okay, yeah, I think for now I'm happy to support this recommendation for us to go to consultation with that as the preferred option. I guess I would be, my real interest in this is seeing how can we best use that land, and I guess we'll see what interest there might be there through that consultation process. So that's all for me.
Okay, Councillor Trillin. Taku, do you have a question? Oh, we can't hear you, Taku.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Just a point of clarification, is there an offer back to the iwi on this piece of land? I just want to tidy that up.
It wasn't part of the disposal portfolio where that was agreed. So, so it hasn't, that's not in play on this one. Not to say that they couldn't show an interest in it, but yeah.
I remember there used to be a pie cart there, quite a good one too.
Yes, they did.
You remember?
You want to put another one up? All right. Councillor Duncan, one final question.
Just...
I didn't see you.
So am I next to? Okay, so I just want to remind councillors that keeping the parking also sets us up for installing cameras and lighting and all sorts of things as well, which we don't have budget for.
Correct. Councillor, are we happy? The Mayor. So you were...
She was pointing at me, I think. Thank you. Why can we not push back at Greater Wellington and they could turn it into paid parking? Because they're complaining about people parking at the train station, yet they want the easement, and they keep threatening us with putting paid parking in at the train station because people are parking there illegally, so they say. I'd hate to see the car parks go because that's a huge area for parking. So I think we should push back to Greater Wellington and say we are going to sell it on the open market, but we're giving you this option. You buy it.
They have the option already and they haven't taken it up. That's the issue with them. And frankly, you know, there is an argument for testing the market and seeing if somebody will do something.
Yeah, there is,
more.
but it's frustrating because they keep threatening us with putting paid parking in, yet they're not going to take this option up. So they're being bullies by threatening with one thing and then not following through. So disappointed, but open market then.
Well, this will flush them out, if anything does. Councillor Philo. I thought it was you that had the...
Oh,
in this case, Kylie, then.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with going to the open market and yada, 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 but do we have to do this now? Like, I mean, at the moment, the status quo's working. This is probably one of the only places in the whole city where there is free parking, let's be honest here, in a time where people are complaining about the cost of parking around the city. I do realise it needs work. You know, I would, you know, you said there's 175k just for the basics, but then you'd have to put in lighting and everything like that on the top of it. So yeah, I'm with Anita. Like, can we not wait until we have some, until we can get something over the line with Greater Wellington, or do we?
We've already been waiting about 3 years, so I don't know how long. It was probably my belief is that this will either hurry them up or not hurry them up. So it is a bit of a method of flushing out the interest in that.
All right, well, in that case, I'm happy to support this, but if not, I would have liked to have kept the status quo. But...
Councillor Ford, you still want to... Well, did you have a question?
I do have a question. I just knew that Deputy Mayor was before me, that's all.
So, go on.
I've got two things, actually. I just wanted a bit of clarity around what the CE said about Ngāti Toa, because I'm just looking at page 124 about the Public Works Act. So where it talks about the transfer of the site and that the Runanga will be engaged in directly as part of the consultation. So if I could just get a bit more clarity around her comment before. That's the first thing.
Through the chair, that was just we will just be consulting with the Runanga as part of the consultation, as we often do. Also, just while I've got the microphone, just to confirm for you that the proposed district plan, it is zone mixed use, and under the operative district plan, it was zoned central city.
Oh, okay.
And no appeals.
Thanks, Julia. That brings me to my second point, which is, I guess it's just further to what Councillor Trillin was saying around this piece of land and kind of who it gets sold to, because it's great that it's mixed use. It's very close to the railway station. If that was sold in a mixed use capacity, right, there could be cafes or businesses on the bottom and apartments on the top. It would get views riverside. I know there's a railway as well and a motorway, but perhaps on the other sides too, you'd get the hills and the harbour. So I think that could potentially be, to the right developer, a great, asset for the city. So I just wanted to echo what Councillor Trillin was saying as well.
Okay, Councillor Ford.
The paper is just to agree to go out to consult on the options, right?
Yes.
So we're not giving you what we think and all that. I just wanted to clarify. But then and I also just wanted to know, curious, was that the site where the Sacred Heart Church was, or was it over? Or it was moved? With the mobile, was it? Yeah.
Mobile, yeah.
Thanks.
Jim, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, when we wrote this paper, there's we thought about this quite carefully. There is an easement, of course, that's now been given to Greater Wellington, which really does preclude what you're talking about in terms of that form of development. So they go in there once every 5 to 8 years. I don't know how long they took. Maybe it was a month or so, and to clear out the riverbed. So you've got a piece of land which is now impaired in terms of large-scale development. But we know we have currently genuine interest in that site that would support potentially other existing owners of property in our city. So this is a good time to test it and to bring forward whether Greater Wellington want to buy it or not. There is complaints. We get complaints about, the condition of the parking, and yet people are getting it for free. So you can't win on this one, but I think we need to bring it to a head. And I think, so hence the recommendation that we go to market.
Right. There being no further questions, I'm now going to put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Well done. So that brings us to item 7.3, which is an update on our resource management policy work. I'm going to move the report to open it for discussion. I'm seconded by Councillor Duncan. Thank you. Ellen, do you want to just give us a brief rundown on what this is? It's pretty clear what we're talking about here, but
Thank you.
summarise for us.
Mr. Chair. Just thought it would be timely to provide an update on the work in the resource management space to all of you, given the major program of work around the proposed district plan has been completed from our perspective. We're just waiting for the Environment Court. I can give you an update on the LeBlanc appeal hearing, which was at Environment Court. We haven't had a decision from the court, but Rory gave evidence at that hearing, and it appeared that the judge and the commissioner were very happy with what we had presented. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. But we've passed that milestone. At the moment, for Greater Wellington Regional Council work, we have 2 officers, so half the team are working entirely on Greater Wellington related work, which is the appeals on the regional policy statement and the hearings for the what is essentially the regional plan. In central government, we had expected to have some work in the middle of this year. That's been pushed by central government to near the end of the year, and it'll probably go into the beginning of next year, possibly before the new council even sits in the new year. So that's where we're at with that. I can also give you a brief update in terms of the flooding plan changes for Whitby Aotea. The first cab off the rank, so to speak. We are working with Wellington Water to lock in some dates on the week of the 9th of June to do ground truthing community drop-in sessions to make sure that we get the modelled work as accurate as possible, so we get information from the community. So you'll get an update about where those sessions will be and what times, and hopefully get as many people as possible to them. And I have seen in correspondence that there's a meeting in May that's being arranged with jointly with the Pahatanui Residents Association and Wellington Water to talk about the Horakiri flood mapping.
Thank you. Now, councillors' questions. Councillor Hayward.
Kia ora no mātua upoko. Thank you again for coming in and giving us an update on the process. I understand that there's very clear language in here about the dates of the phase of work that have been undertaken by officers and by other agencies in the central government. What I was hoping was, is there some certainty around when officers will come back to council in terms of a subsequent update on that body of work? Would it be perhaps useful to do that as part of the subsequent flood mapping work that's being undertaken as described, post ground truthing, and bundle that together as an update in later on?
Sorry, I'm not. Are you talking about the work with the central government work?
Well, no, I'm talking about an update similar to this. Obviously, you are going to be continue, updates as we work through this, and you'll continue to keep your ear to the ground with regards to central government.
Yes.
So, do you have timeframes around coming back to TPK with regards to additional updates, like in the manner that we've had right now? And if not, would it not be an ideal time to use the flood mapping exercises that are going on now to bundle together that as part of a future agenda item?
Yes, very happy to continue giving updates, especially when we get nearer to those times when public consultation is necessary. We have programmed in to come and talk to you all about the geohazards proposed plan change. So we've got a paper coming, I think, to next meeting on the 15th of May about that. So that's the next large piece of work that we've got.
Councillor Hayward? Or you want to add to that, Nick?
Through the chair, just to add to that, the other piece of legislation change is happening in the limbs space, and that affects natural hazards as well, and liability for council with regards to natural hazards, which affects flooding. So we will bring an update to you once the staff have gone through the legislation, which they're doing now, around what it means. So the key question is whether we can get that before the election period starts. If not, we will at least give you a written update on what that means and how that relates to the flood mapping issues that are playing out in the community at the moment.
Noted. Thank you. You.
Just a brief on that last point. In providing a written update, irrespective of the situation between now and, I describe it as period, but it is the election period, that there would be a subsequent meeting in the new term in any case to cover those items off and deal with it then as well, right?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Okay. No more questions.
Mayor Baker.
Thank you. Great to see the flood mapping. I thought Patanui was ahead of Whitby, but you're saying it's the other way, which they won't be impressed with because we were all led to believe it was the other way. And then I see Wellington Water coming back and saying, actually, it's a year out. So this is very frustrating process for this community. They've got me wanting to go to government about this, obviously. Can the councillors in that ward please come to that meeting? Because we're getting this daily now. And I can't say I'm impressed that Whitby's jumped ahead of Patanui.
It wasn't ever ahead of Whitby. Whitby was staged before that. So it might have been their understanding that they wanted to leapfrog Whitby, but that's my understanding. It hasn't actually changed.
So that means there's no way of working through this to change that. It is what it is now.
Yeah, I mean, they're just more advanced because they started earlier on Whitby. Right. It was a program piece of work, is my understanding. So, yeah, and we are kind of trying to beat that up, and so that's not a very good analogy, but to get Pāwatahanui sped up. Actually, that's what we're attempting to do right now.
It'll be the new legislation. So, thank you.
Right, is that? Okay, any other questions from councillors? In that case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. That brings us to item 7.4, which is a chorus designation change or a removal. I'm going to move the report to thank you, Councillor Hayward. I'm going to invite, are you going to?
Vanessa.
Vanessa, yes.
Mr. Chair, I'll take the report as read, but I'll also give a overview. Chorus New Zealand have a designation at 7 Motuhara Road in Plimerton. A designation enables requiring authorities like telcos to have their activity on the site without the need for land use consent. Chorus New Zealand recently subdivided the site and then sold the rear property. The new owners of the site, the Marram Community Trust, have asked Chorus to remove the designation from the rear property. Chorus New Zealand have accordingly made that application to us. It is considered that there are no adverse implications in removing the designation from the rear site. Accordingly, we therefore request you to recommend to Council that the designation is removed from the rear site as Chorus no longer owns or needs it. And then the proposed district plan can be updated without any further formality. It's a fairly straightforward
Thank you for
procedural
that
matter.
summary, Vanessa. Yep, that's very clear and straightforward. Anyone have any questions regarding this? All right, I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Councillors, that brings us to the end of the meeting, which I'll declare closed at 9:36, noting that we'll do the karakia at the end of the workshop. Yes.